Hello, it's Charles Lewis again, author of The Diamond Mind. Today I wanted to do a quick refresher on giving and tell you my experience with it. I have another video on it, a couple videos on it, but I just wanted to touch on it again. So, giving is a spiritual principle. Anytime I've ever given something with a good, pure intent, I've always received back more than what I gave initially. And let's talk about the intent. Well, pure intent means that you're giving it not expecting for that person to give it back to you, right? You're doing it when you're giving it, you're really giving it to God, right? Because you know how the principle of giving works. And we often, I think, where the confusion comes in is anytime we talk about giving in both religious and secular circles, uh, they use an agricultural example of sowing a seed. And, any farmer knows that when you sow a seed or plant a seed in the ground, that seed may have cost, that little seed may have cost you 2 cents, but it's going to yield a harvest that's going to be, worth 20 bucks. One little seed, you could probably get $20 worth of product out of, right? So people tend to use that example a lot because it makes sense. There are a lot of spiritual things that coincide with physical. So yeah, basically, where people lose sight is the fact that in the agricultural example, if you sow a seed right here into the ground, right? When you plant that seed and you water it and God gives the increase, it's going to grow up from the same place in which you put that seed. Well, you can't, it doesn't happen like that in the spiritual because you can't expect your harvest to come from where you planted the seed when you're doing it from a spiritual aspect. So if I give $50 to Mary, I can't expect Mary to give me $50 back, right? I'm giving it pure of heart is like, look, I am blessed to have the type of overflow where I could give her this money and hopefully she'll pay it forward. I'm not looking for Mary to give me the money back. And obviously deep down inside you would like for there to be a scenario where if you were down and Mary had some type of overflow that she would give you some money and help you out in that time of need. But it doesn't always happen like that. And when it doesn't happen like that, I'd encourage you not to be upset. And what it clearly identifies is you didn't do it out of pure intentions, because you want your increase to come from God. God can do way more for you than Mary can, right? So when you sow it, knowing that, hey, I don't know where the harvest is going to come from. I know it's going to come. I know God is going to bring it about some type of way, but I don't know how He's going to do it. And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be through Mary. Now, if it comes through Mary, you feel kind of good, like, oh yeah, she reciprocated. But it's not about reciprocation when you're given pure spirit. You're supposed to give, not expecting anything in return. And once that happens, then God will give the increase. You can expect something in return for giving, right? Religious people use this, that have a good grasp of the spiritual principle. They use it like all the time, right? That's where we get sow a seed in the time of need. You'll have people that are spiritual people that are getting a financial crunch, right? And you're in a financial crunch. the universe will always give you some type of seed to sow, whether it's a seed of encouragement or a financial seed. And there's a lot of situations where people close to me, even myself, I had these bills that needed to be paid. I only had a little bit of money that was not going to be able to cover those bills, and I would just give the little bit of money that I have away. And then every single time, not just 1 out of 10 or 3 times out of 10, not 9 times out of 10, every single time, the Lord provided me with increase, not only to be able to take care of that need, but also have overflow to be able to help somebody else in need, right? You got to keep the money circulating. In the last video, I spoke of another example of Rockefeller. Rockefeller, even to this day, was, besides some of the men in Africa way back in like the 1300s, like Mansa Musa was probably the richest man walked the face of the earth. But kind of in modern times, it would be John D. Rockefeller, who owns Sun Oil Company. Grew up under humble means and built his company up. He would have what would when he was at the peak of his net worth, it would be worth about $350 billion in today's currency, is basically, and nobody right now has even reached that. But the guy came to interview him and asked him, about the money, like how could somebody from this small city and who didn't come from rich parents able to accumulate this type of money? And he answered, God knew he could trust me with it. And if you look at John D. Rockefeller, he was one of the biggest philanthropists. I mean, he gave money away like it was candy, literally. He gave to churches, he gave to organizations, he gave individual contributions, right? He gave more money away than what Bill Gates' current net worth would be. He gave about like 50 or 60 billion dollars away in today's currency. So, I mean, just looking at his example alone, plus many others, he's one of the greatest examples. But let's go back to what he said and how he answered the question. He said, God knew he could trust me with the money. God knew that he could give the money to me and give it through me to another person, right? So I've had situations where I've had overflow, and the Lord told me to bless a certain person. And I remember I didn't always listen to that, right? But anytime I wouldn't listen to it, I would feel convicted, right? Like, why didn't I listen to that inner still voice that told me to do something? And now when I listen to it, even if it's somebody that I don't particularly care for, if I give that money to that person or sow that seed of encouragement to that person, I mean, sometimes it doesn't even take 24 hours before the Lord reciprocates and gives me a harvest based on that. And it's not wrong to expect a harvest from God from giving. It's a spiritual principle. That's just the way it works. Where the problem comes in is when you expect the harvest from the person in which you gave it to. Okay, whether that's encouragement. Even if it's you don't have money and you found yourself in a situation where you can encourage somebody else, you can't expect them to encourage you when you're in a time of need. If you gave them money, you can't expect them to give you money when you're in time of need. It totally negates the power of giving when you have an expectation from the place where you sowed it. We're not farming, right? It's a good example. It's very similar to sowing a seed, and but you're not going to plant a seed and reap the harvest from the same place in which you planted the seed, right? So you got to be okay with that, and it's tough, because you we've been humans, and the longer that you're a human being, you're gonna operate, and the longer you've operated in the physical world, the more fleshly you become over time, and it's hard to kind of shake that off. But you got to realize that you're not giving to people; you're giving to God, right? You're giving to His children. Like, so you look at how you would feel if somebody helped your child out. If your child was in a time of need, somebody does something, goes out of their way to help your child when they're in a time of need, you're never going to forget that. You're going to love that person to death. God is the same exact way. You help His children, He will help you, right? He's going to love you regardless, even if you make some mistakes. But when you sow a seed, what do you think God is going to do when you sow a seed into one of His children that's in need? I mean, that's what we're here on earth for. His only expression is through mankind, right? He doesn't come down and bring you groceries. He doesn't come down and pay your bills for you. He does everything that He does for you through another human being. And you have to be open. You have to be that willing participant in the process in order for you to get what you've got coming, right? Anytime you're in a time of need, sow that seed, whether it's financial. Somebody's always in need of something, right? Somebody's always in need of some encouragement. So just be that willing vessel and don't expect to get the harvest from the same place in which you sowed the seed. I hope this added value to you. If so, like the video, subscribe, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.